Bond. James Bond.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup! Sublime!
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Tear me apart, Lisa!
But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of You Haven't Seen That, a movie discussion podcast where we introduce our friend Ben to movies he should have seen a long time ago. I'm your host, Amanda.
I'm Geoff.
And I'm Ben.
Today, we are discussing Inception.
Wah.
And we'll be ending with our top 4 recurring dreams.
Inception, released July 2010. A little bit of pop culture at this time. The number one song in the country was California Girls by Katy Perry.
Classic.
Spain had recently beaten the Netherlands in the World Cup. And Emily Blunt and John Krasinski recently got married. Actually, the week Inception came out, the two of them got married. Fun fact.
Wow, congrats, guys.
I know. They've gone this long.
They're going
Good
strong,
for them.
15 years.
I know, right? Crazy. Inception is directed by Christopher Nolan. This is his 7th movie and his first after the massive success of The Dark Knight. Cast is stacked like a lot of Nolan's movies have been and were, such as Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Elliot Page, Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy, Ken Watanabe, Marianne Cotillard, and Michael Caine. This movie's had a $160 million budget and grossed $839 million at the global box office. A massive success for a wholly original, non-IP, non-based on a true story, non-sequel movie. This dethroned Despicable Me as the number one movie in the United States when it came out, and it was number one in the country for 3 weeks in a row. This also, and this slightly unconfirmed, but after doing some digging, this is the 7th highest grossing original movie, again, non-IP, non-sequel, of all time. Massive, massive movie. Most of those are animated movies that are above it too. So like all of the Disney, Pixar, whatever canon. This movie also was nominated for 8 Academy Awards and won 4. It won cinematography, visual effects, sound editing, and sound mixing. And it was nominated in picture, original screenplay, art direction, and score. Much like one of the last movies we did, How to Train Your Dragon. Same year, exact same year. It lost to The King's Speech in both picture and screenplay. It lost to Alice in Wonderland in art direction. And it lost to The Social Network in score.
So it didn't win anything.
It won 4.
Oh.
He just said
that. Well, you were focusing on what it lost.
Yeah, I did. I breezed over real quick what it won.
You're like, let's talk about where it sucked.
Listen. Okay. Inception won in cinematography, visual effects, sound editing, and sound mixing.
Okay.
I feel like I heard that before.
What? Didn't he say that?
Yes. That was the first thing he said after.
Sure. This is also the second Christopher Nolan movie that we've done.
It is.
Yes.
You're racking them up, Ben.
Friend of the pod, Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan, come on the pod. He's gonna be on the promotional tour next year for a new movie. So why not? Let's get him on.
I feel like he's churning out movies too quickly.
He does every 3 years. It's actually an incredible trend. He gets a movie out every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, which is too fast, I think.
Yeah, but his movies are good, so it's fine, I think.
But couldn't they be better maybe if he took his time?
I think that's a pretty long time.
Yeah. I was about to say.
For a movie?
Every 2 to 3 years, there are directors who do more than that.
Yeah, like crap movies. That's not a long time at all. Anyways, we're way off track here.
They can't all be Quentin Tarantino and only do 7 in their careers.
Ben, tell us about your history with Inception, if any.
I I don't really have much of a history with this. I vaguely remember it coming out in 2010. Um, I didn't really know what it was about. I knew it had something to do with dreams, but I don't remember being super interested in seeing it then. Even though I know it was like a huge hit. So yeah, I don't really have much to say about my history with this movie. I vaguely knew it was about dreams, and I vaguely remember when it came out and was a big hit.
All right. What about you, Geoff?
So I was 18 when Inception came out, and
Geoff.
Gonna make Ben do that every episode.
Every time. So when this movie came out, it was probably the most important movie in the world to all teenage boys, basically. This was a movie that I very vividly remember walking to my Regal to go see in the summertime. My younger brother and I, who's 3 years younger than me, shout out Patrick if you're listening, he and I would walk to our Regal, which is about a mile and a half or so from our house, to go see a movie every Friday during the summer when I didn't have a job or anything. I was just living at home. Our parents were working and everything. So we would walk down, we'd go to see a movie and then, walk back home and everything. We saw a whole bunch. I vividly remember, a handful of movies. This is one of the ones that like very distinctly sticks out in terms of us like prepping for beforehand, making sure that we had everything ready to go, like just making it a mission. Normally we wouldn't go to a movie with something in mind. This was one where it was like, we have to see Inception now. So this was a very important movie. I've seen it multiple times since its release, and I owned the DVD for a while. And yeah, I've seen this movie a few times.
Do we still not own the DVD?
I don't think we do. It's at my parents' house.
Okay. For me, this is a movie. This is maybe my third or fourth time watching it. I'm not really sure of the exact number. And I don't know if I watched it in the theaters or not, but I have watched it 3 or 4 times between when it came out and right now. And that is my history. Geoff, why don't you give us your score for Inception?
I'm going to shock so many people when I say this. This is a 5 out of 5. I love Inception so much. This movie is so cool. The idea, the concept, the way it's executed. I know there are little flaws here and there, like within the story in some moments, which make me go, huh? But I am so wrapped up and so enraptured with this movie. It flies by. This is one of the fastest 2.5 hour movies I've ever seen. I love this movie so much. This is a 5 out of 5.
And what about you, Ben?
I don't know if you know this about me, but I am fascinated by dreams. I think that they are a really interesting thing. Um, so that being said, this movie definitely confused me at times as a first time viewer. It was one that I would like to see again because I feel like I spent a lot of the time confused, especially at the beginning. So I looked back and I gave Oppenheimer a 3.75, which feels generous in hindsight. I wish I had given it a lower score because I did like this more than Oppenheimer. I wanted to give this a 3.75, but I was like, but that's what I gave Oppenheimer. I liked this more than Oppenheimer. So I'm going to give it a 4.
Nice. We found another science fiction movie Ben likes. Perfect.
Yeah, I really didn't know where you were going to come out with this one, Ben. So I'm glad that it ended up being good for you. And I did not know that you're fascinated by dreams.
I am.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, it's a fun little detail.
Yeah.
That and Deja Vu, I find very interesting.
Deja vu is fascinating.
It is.
I wouldn't say that I know anything about it, but it is fascinating.
Yeah.
For me, this movie has grown on me. Definitely the first time I watched it, or the first maybe couple times I watched it, I did not really like it outside of like visually watching it. Like the visuals are very good in this movie. But having seen some other Nolan movies that I think are worse, and Ben, I was also looking at my Oppenheimer score and I was like,
I just realized I made a mistake. I gave Oppenheimer a 3.5, not a 3.75. but I'm gonna leave it a 4 because I like this significantly more than Oppenheimer. But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Yeah, I gave Oppenheimer 4.5 and I'm like, that does not leave much wiggle room for this. So yeah, again, I wish I could knock Oppenheimer down a little bit. Um, I am gonna give this a 4.75.
And we have a new number one movie for season
This will
2 of the
benefit a lot from
podcast.
Oppenheimer being rated too high.
Whoops, sorry. That's okay. Cillian Murphy's in this one too. So
I think if I had watched this before Oppenheimer, I think I would have been harder on Oppenheimer.
Interesting. Why is that?
Yeah, why is that?
Because I think I would have appreciated like what Christopher Nolan can do with this type of movie more in Inception. And then I think if I watched Oppenheimer afterwards, I feel like I would have felt like it was a weaker version of the same type of movie. Obviously very different in plot, but same kind of, science fiction-y, jumping around kind of, big budget, big stars kind of thing. Original story.
Yeah. I do think Oppenheimer is not like very different, but I don't know, at least from what I've seen from Christopher Nolan, like, is that like the only one he's done, Geoff, that's like a biopic kind of deal?
Yes. Oppenheimer is his only biopic, and I believe outside of the Batman movies, his only non-original movie.
Okay, yeah. And obviously, like, Batman is kind of like, I don't know. He was catering to the masses for that, probably, right? Like,
yeah, it was one of those
where Christopher Nolan way.
Exactly.
I wouldn't know. I have not seen those.
Maybe we'll have to do that on Amanda hasn't seen that month.
There you go.
Because I've seen 2 of the 3.
I've seen bits and pieces of The Dark Knight. That's it.
She refuses.
I also hate Batman, so I said it. I hate Batman.
He's the best superhero.
Why?
We're not getting into this now. Let's talk about Inception.
We've probably had this discussion several times over the years. Well, no, it's not usually you.
I don't like superheroes except for Batman.
I was gonna say it's not usually you I'm having this fight with.
No, because I don't usually care enough about superhero stuff.
Yeah,
but I do love Batman. Ever since I was a little young boy watching trailers for Batman Returns and the old 60s sitcom on reruns. But anyway, we're here to talk about Inception.
Let's talk about Inception.
There we go.
Ben, I want to start off just like how I did with The Matrix. Can you explain to me Inception?
I can explain it better than The Matrix to this day. I feel like the basic definition of it is like infiltrating people's dreams and forcing, decisions based on that.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I think something really interesting though that I noticed this time around was they specifically referred to Inception as being like the idea planting portion of it. But I feel like the public, the general, everybody always refers to Inception as the actual like dream, like going into people's dreams. Like that's what I was like, yeah, that's Inception, like going into people's dreams. But in the movie, they make it sound more like Inception is the actual planting the idea.
Right. Well, I feel like it's like already established that they go into the dreams, and then Inception is like another level of that where they're actually implanting ideas.
I guess, yeah, because they were calling it extraction at the beginning when they were like trying to get information from going into someone's
Are you
dreams.
getting information or giving information?
No, getting information.
Right, no, but I'm saying that's the difference.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like there needs to be a term for the actual going into the dreams, because you could be extractioning or you could be inceptioning.
Or just vibing, just checking it out. Like, what's their
Hanging out.
substance?
Just
chilling.
going for a fun little stroll through somebody's dream.
Yeah, what's your
Not trying to
subconscious
get or
like?
give anything.
Leo loves to do that. Just
So I felt like for the first like 15 to 20 minutes of this movie, I was like, what is happening? What is going on in this movie? And I still to this, even after watching the rest of it, I'm still a little thrown and confused by that first stretch about like where we were in time, where we were in the story, what was going on. Once it kind of settled down and started with like, getting the team together and doing like then I was able to follow it a lot more. But those first 15 minutes, I was like, I might need to pause this and read about this first because I don't understand what's happening.
They throw you right in.
Yeah.
They throw you
And
right
typically I
into it.
like that. Like I often knock like exposition, like let us just jump in and live with these characters. I think I always love when TV shows do that and don't start with like, this is my dad. He, blah, blah, blah. And they always like, I like when you just get dropped into a world most of the time. But this was a little too head spinning for me to get dropped into this world.
This is like classic Christopher Nolan. I literally turned to Geoff. It was probably like 15 or 20 minutes in, and I was like, man, he just loves to just throw so much information at you without
Right.
any context
No,
of what is
I
going
literally
on.
paused the movie to make sure I didn't like start it halfway through.
I know, it's a lot.
It
Like,
is a lot.
and I feel like that's one of the things that's always like irked me about his movies is because I remember when Inception came out, right? And it kind of turned into this culture war of like, are you dumb and you didn't get it? Or like, were
Right.
you
I
smart
do
and
remember
you
hearing that.
understood what was going on? And I feel like ever since then, I've never been able to let go of this fact that like Christopher Nolan thinks he's so freaking smart. And like, honestly, some of his movies are like, oh, is this too deep for you? Like, we're really, working with all these different things. And it's frustrating. But the more I watch Inception, the more I'm like, okay, I can, for the most part. There's still a few things that I'm like, okay, I don't fully understand that. Specifically, Mal in the elevator basement. I don't know, whatever that whole situation is. I don't really understand that, but I've just always hated that it's like his movies are like, you're too dumb to understand this high concept I'm throwing at you.
Especially when he says that in the press interviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite details, I believe it was about his. So after this, he does the third movie in the Dark Knight trilogy, and then he releases Interstellar, which is massive sci-fi hit, everything. I feel like if I remember correctly, during like the press tour of that movie, I believe like scientists had come out and said that Christopher Nolan did a better job of explaining and breaking down things like black holes and gravitational pull and the effects of gravity on time and everything better than any other mainstream movie. And just adding on layers and layers to this whole idea of like, oh, he's smarter than everybody else and everything, which is hilarious. And especially hearing it now with all of these different ideas with like the dream sequences and everything like that, it's very funny.
He just really has a fascination with time.
Yeah.
Like, he really truly does.
He messes with
Yeah.
time in Oppenheimer, the timelines in Oppenheimer. Tenet is just all about time. Dunkirk is.
Never watched Tenet.
You're not going to like my movie recommendations at the end of this, Amanda. But no, it is crazy how much of this movie, because I think the thing that weirdly, it wasn't this time, but it was a couple times before this when I watched it, I said, this movie is just one heist. This isn't a, hey, hopping into multiple things. Like when you think of like sometimes like criminal movies or heist movies, they're doing multiple things. They're getting caught. They're getting whatever. They're building a team out and they're doing multiple things throughout a movie. This is just one heist, one thing. We're building up to it and then executing it in the second half of the movie. And the entire first half of the movie, so much of it is exposition, but it never feels slow. It never feels boring. It never feels dull. He makes the exposition exciting. This movie makes this explanation and these stories so enrapturing that I'm like, hey, I'm bought in. I get this. I'm listening, I want to be engaged. Like, yeah, you're explaining to me all these concepts and stuff, but like you're doing it in a really cool, fun, and interesting way. So when Dom and Ariadne are sitting in that dream and he's explaining the concept of dreams in this cafe area, it's like, yeah, normally that would just be like a boring whatever, but then you start having stuff explode all over the place and then things folding over and streets folding over on top of each other. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't care. Keep explaining this concept to me. I don't care. This is so fun. I am so bought in.
I Well, first of all, are some of like I don't know if you know this or if I would need to look it up, but like are some of these dream stats true that he gives, where he talks about like um 5 minutes as an hour and that kind of thing, like is that true?
I don't know. I barely remember my dreams at all to the point where I'm like, I
was
don't
going to
know.
ask you guys that, like, are you dream remembers? Because my wife rarely remembers her dreams, and I almost always do, at least when I first wake up, and then sometimes I lose it. Um, but like, I feel like I'm a very vivid dreamer.
I remember dreams when they reoccur, and hence what we'll be getting into here at the tail end of this episode. One-off dreams I have a very hard time remembering. It's always stuff that kind of happens and it's like building and building. I used to remember dreams a lot more also like when I was younger, and now I don't as much. Maybe it's just because I'm getting no sleep and I'm not a healthy person, but I used to remember my dreams a lot, not as much anymore. But if they do like reoccur after a few nights, or if they're sadly work related, then yes, I will remember dreams pretty well.
And I don't know about you, but I can almost always tie them into something that happened in my day.
Interesting. I
Almost
can't.
always. Sometimes they're like a loose tie, but they're always tied into something from the day for me.
That's fascinating.
Interesting. I don't always remember my dreams. I would say my sleep goes in cycles. I'll have periods of time where I just have really vivid dreams, like every single night for a stretch of time. And then, like, I won't have any dreams at all. And then, like, I'll have a period where I have trouble sleeping. Like, it just constantly like repeats in a cycle. But when I do have vivid dreams, I usually remember at least most of them, like right after I wake up. And if I want to remember them, I have to like keep retelling myself after I'm awake, like what happened, or else I'll just forget.
Yeah, it does disappear quickly. I've heard. I don't know if this is true. I'm just spouting out science things without any knowledge or fact checking. But I've heard that we dream every night. It's just a matter of if we remember it or not.
I believe it.
Wouldn't it depend on what level of sleep you're getting to, or
I guess
no?
that's true. But the thing that's interesting for me is that, like, before I had a kid, I was sleeping more solidly through the night. And now I feel like I get up more frequently and I get back to sleep easier than I used to because I get interrupted more frequently in sleep. And I
Mhm.
almost feel like that's led me to remembering them more, maybe because I'm waking up in the middle of them. I don't know. But I'm curious, like, when you have like what feels like maybe, and this, like what feels like maybe 5 minutes of a dream, how much of that were you actually sleeping during?
Oh my gosh, if it's only a 5 minute dream,
If
like,
it feels like in like the story of your
right.
dream is 5 minutes.
I mean, you were probably sleeping for a long time, right?
Well,
Probably, yeah.
no, it's the reverse. I thought it's.
Is it the
Um,
reverse?
I think it's
Well, in the
five.
movie, it's the reverse. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like if
Like,
it's 5 minutes,
Like a
like
5 minute dream lasts as an hour story.
if 5 minutes of sleep is an hour in a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
So
fair.
I believe that. I
I
think
think
my
I think it's exaggerated a little bit in this movie.
that's the thing is like when I think of like my dreams, I'm almost storyboarding them like a movie.
Hmm.
I'm not walking like if I'm taking a hike in a dream, I'm not following myself completely from point A to point B. Instead, I'm like, oh, I'm starting it, and then I'm going to cut ahead like I would if I were editing a TV show or a film. I wouldn't follow that process, but maybe it's all encompassing. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say too, and Ben, maybe this has to do with your vivid dreaming with like being woken up more. I find that I have way more vivid dreams, and maybe they're not actually dreams. I don't know. Whenever I like take a nap, And if
Mm.
I'm only asleep for a short period of time, and it's almost like you're in that in between state between being awake and having a dream.
And you're not in like that deep sleep.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe
Hmm.
that's what's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about the movie.
Okay. Again, I just find dreams fascinating. I just they're not something I've like spent any time reading about, but I just
Yeah,
find them interesting.
it is interesting.
I like the way that they do play around in this movie with the idea of the dream world and how real world effects affect the dream. Little things like, oh, getting dunked in the water, all of a sudden stuff comes splashing in. Or the guy at the end of the movie, the chemist whose dream is the foundation of kind of that first layer of the dream, he's got to pee. And so it's raining in the world there, which we all have thought of, when you think about like when you sleep, it's like, oh, I'm thinking about it's raining or whatever. It's like, oh, I actually have to use the bathroom. It's hilarious that kind of got interchanged in there. I think it was really creative about how the stories of the dreams were told and then how it affected each other like in next levels down. So
I feel
real,
like
real
I
impressive.
apologize if I'm jumping on your movie recommendations, but I feel like it's like in some ways like an adult's version of Inside Out, where like you sit there and you're like, oh, like that's really relatable, but I don't think I could have come up with that in my own, like I couldn't
Hmm.
have thought of it through myself. But when you see it, you're like, yeah, that's kind of, what I experienced too, or that's a unique look at something that is kind of um uh what's the word, like universal
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have the same types of dreams and things happen to them, and I feel like this movie showcased some of that in clever ways.
Right, absolutely. Like Dom's idea of he basically has the same dream every night, which is just reliving memories of his past and him trying to keep them to himself so he never lets them go and never forgets, which ends up almost ruining everything in all of these worlds. So it's very interesting to think about that there. Also, Dom is the worst. And also, has he gotten a good night's sleep in goodness knows how many years? I can't even imagine last time that man ever got a good night's sleep.
I said to Jeff, this is just a movie about a people sitting around getting high all day.
Right?
They're like, give me the drugs, let me go to sleep. And then they do some cool stuff. They're like, oh man, did you see that?
All it needed was Seth Rogen.
There you go.
Hire Seth Rogen as the chemist. Nah, he wouldn't take it serious. Ah, no.
He
I feel like
might.
Rogen might take it seriously
Yeah.
enough, but because he was in a Spielberg movie, like a Spielberg drama and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he would understand the assignment quite as well as others.
Do you know, Jeff, how much of this was like CGI and how much was not? Because there are just massive set pieces and settings here. I mean, it
So
feels huge.
I did not do my homework ahead of this episode in terms of rewatching. There is a behind the scenes of the hotel in Dream Number Two and in the end sequence. There's a behind the scenes where they built basically, if memory serves right, they built like a tube and they rotated a tube in order to get the filming effects of Arthur jumping off of walls and the security guards hiding like on the ceiling and them trying to fight with gravity. That is how they executed that. They built like this thing and then started like twirling it around. But I assume based on its Oscar win for VFX and its nomination in art direction, later changed to production design, they probably did a good healthy balance between the two. So I'm not
Like,
100% sure, but there was a decent amount of
yeah.
actual like physical
Well,
production.
and that snow scene just felt like epically big.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Like
Unbelievable.
if it was all CGI, it was done very well. But
Incredibly well.
I got the
Yeah.
sense that it wasn't all that there was a lot of real.
Isn't he very famously against CGI or
He
like heavy
does.
uses of CGI?
I believe so. I mean, I know even for a movie like Interstellar, a movie that takes place in space, there were a lot of practical things done to simulate black holes and outer space and everything. For Oppenheimer, a lot of the VFX about showcasing the explosions and everything were done very at a very small scale and very in a very physical fashion, in very creative ways. So he is not the most CGI heavy director, which is, I think, a benefit to him and how he
Mhm.
works.
Yeah. I mean, visually, this movie's stunning.
It's amazing.
Like you said, the city like folding in on itself, the hotel sequence where they're fighting, the snowy prison guard place, I don't know, dream. Um, just all of it is really, really fun to watch. Um, I actually was joking with Geoff. I was like, it's kind of like watching Doctor Strange. Because in
Hmm.
the first Doctor Strange movie, they're able to go into like a mirror universe, which looks very similar to how it did in this movie when the town was turning upside down on itself and everything. I was like, look at that. It's basically the same thing.
Except in a sci-fi lens that Ben might not gravitate towards as much.
Because it's magic,
Magic.
not dreams.
The dreams was the saving grace here from being too sci-fi for me.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
the difference between something like this and The Matrix.
I want to know Robert's Killian Murphy's subconscious there when we get into layer 3 and that fortress. I'm like, man, he has armed that place to the T. I would want to avoid his dreams like crazy
I'd
because
just avoid Cillian Murphy in general because he's such a creep.
that's
I feel like
mean.
every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, he's a creepy guy.
I wouldn't go that far, but no, I see what you're saying.
I don't know. I think by the time they get to the third level of the dream, that's where it starts to become just so convoluted for me that I'm like, okay, I was tracking with you for a very long time. And then by the time we start to get into that portion, and then when Dom has to like go into limbo from there, I'm like, all right, you kind of lost me here.
Unbelievable. If we're diving into performances now, was there any performance or actor that stood out to you in terms of being a favorite or anything that stuck out? Because I have an MVP from this movie.
For me, like, I don't, this is like an obvious answer, but I feel like as I've watched this and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I don't know that I ever really, like, I know he's acclaimed, but I've never really seen Leonardo DiCaprio movies besides Titanic. I think was literally the only one I saw before this podcast, and now I've seen a couple more. And he really is like just super rock solid. Like from the very beginning of
Mhm.
this movie, he is just he's so good at what he does, and I think the acclaim is deserved for him because he
Yeah.
really, yeah, he's
Yeah.
good.
He is good. Dom Cobb as a character itself kind of sucks. And Leo does a really good job of portraying him in an effective way, in a way that we actually care about him. Like he's a guy whose mind is sabotaging everything. He's a guy who just constantly gets in trouble, is always pushing the limits and everything, but you're still rooting for him
Right.
at the end
And
of
I
the
feel like
day.
in lesser hands he could come off as like mopey or a
Mm-hmm.
bad guy or and he
Mhm.
doesn't really come off that way because I think
Mm-mm.
Leonardo DiCaprio plays him effectively.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah. I
My
don't want to
MVP.
steal your answer, Jeff. So
No,
you
steal
go
it.
ahead.
No,
No,
steal it. Steal it.
no, you were just
Please.
about to say it.
No, please do. Fine.
Go, Jeff.
Because Amanda refuses to steal my answer. My MVP of this movie is easily, and it really stuck out to me. I think not this last time, but a couple times before that is Eames, aka Tom Hardy, and I think he is having so much fun in this already super fun movie. Just in his mannerisms and the way he talks and the way he operates, his character itself has kind of a fun job of being like an actor and being a mimic, and he plays it up so well throughout this movie, and you can clearly tell he has incredible chemistry with everybody on screen, and just does yeah, he's last all the way to the end. He's with Ariadne, he's with Saito, he's with Robert, he's with Dom all the way to the end. He plays the pivotal role of making sure that the safe is all set and good to go and catching the details. He's a great, great, great character. So yeah, shout out to Tom Hardy.
And I don't think he did necessarily anything super special in this movie, but I just love watching him in general. So I'll give a little love to Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was fine before he didn't do anything like too crazy or revolutionary, but I just love watching him.
He does. He's got that sort of persona to him he's sharp throughout the whole movie. He does a really good job of explaining things. He's almost kind of like our narrator throughout this, because Ariadne is the audience's perspective into this, as the person who's fresh in, never done this before, in which her character is very, very fun to explore. I think Ellie Page does a good job of developing it throughout the movie, and I got Ariadne's motivations more this time around than I have maybe in any other movie, and getting it and picking up on little details about that character's development. But I think Arthur's that sort of narrator, sort of, hey, it's okay. It's not really that hard to get this, when in reality it is. But come with me. We can explain this and figure this out. So, no, I think
Christopher Nolan be like, come on, audience. You can be
Right?
smart. It's okay.
You got this. So, no, I think that's a good pick, Amanda. But I'm sure I took Eames from you, so I apologize.
That's okay. I don't really understand how Tom Hardy could change into different people in the dreams.
I think it's almost like how with Ariadne, she's can change the design of dreams. So maybe with the way that Eames is wired, he can change his personality. He's almost like a DNA architect almost. I don't know. It is weird.
But also, like, how does Ariadne change dreams if other people are having them? Like, how does she change the architecture of a dream if someone else is the dreamer?
That's a good question. Let's go deep and find out. Give me
When
my
we have Christopher Nolan on the pod, we can ask him.
Oh, calling in right now, Christopher Nolan, to answer all your burning questions.
He's probably I don't know if he's sick about talking about this movie, but
Probably.
I know he probably got sick of this movie, especially during like press tours and stuff, because I'm sure he got so many questions about like the top at the end of the movie, like, oh, is it still spinning? Is it tipped over? I'm sure he got so many questions about this. He's like, you know what? We're good. I don't need to keep going on.
I feel like I remember seeing something somewhat recently, maybe when Oppenheimer came out, where like people were still asking him about the top, and he was like, all right, this is the answer once and for all. I'm sick of all you people.
He's like,
I'm gonna look it up.
Because I mean, it doesn't ultimately. I mean, I don't. I think the top will eventually stop spinning, but I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter to Dom.
I feel like initially, the first couple times I watched this, I was really bothered by it. Like, oh, what? Like, is it spinning? Is it not? This time when I watched it, I was like, is there really like, I didn't feel uncertain at all that he was in reality. I don't know. I don't know how you guys felt.
I feel like, and this is going to sound like dismissive, but I feel like I don't care.
Yep.
Like, I don't like. I feel like it's real to him. You know what I mean? Like, and he's choosing to make it real.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter too much if it's reality or not.
And I think you got the point of the movie, Ben. I think you got the point of the ending perfectly.
There you go. The way the end of that film worked, he was off with his kids. He was in his own subjective reality. He didn't care anymore, and that makes a statement.
See, I'm just like Dom.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Exactly.
But I like that. I feel like that's an effective end to the movie. Like, I feel like people get so frustrated when there's unanswered questions, and I don't like when plots are not resolved or things like that. But something like that's like leaving it up to the audience interpretation. Like, I'm totally cool with that. Like, we did, not to make this about me, but we did, I directed Aida about almost 10 years ago now, God. And we made the ending purposely ambiguous about how we wanted people to take it. like it wasn't. I mean, we didn't change the script or anything, you know. We're not really, but we just the way we staged it, we left a little bit of ambiguity. And I was like, I'm fine with different audience members thinking different things about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that that's okay for like Christopher Nolan to be like, if some people think it's a dream and some people think it's reality and some people think it's his reality, you know, like I think it's okay if people believe different things about it. That's like,
Yeah. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. It that almost speaks to the effectiveness of the movie in general. It's that this movie can be interpreted many different ways and that people are engaged enough with the movie to think about how this movie ended. So, yeah, it absolutely does its job in being effective as an ending. And it's one of my favorite movie endings ever. I don't know if I have a list per se of my favorite movie endings, but this is absolutely up there.
yeah.
Hmm.
Geoff, I feel like maybe we talked about this at when we did Oppenheimer, but where does this fall on your Christopher Nolan scale?
So it's actually so I have four. So I've seen every single one of Nolan's movies, and four of them to me are 5 out of 5s, or at least like close enough. And they're Oppenheimer, Interstellar, Inception, and The Dark Knight.
Okay.
I've recently rewatched all of them, which is hilarious to think about it. Obviously, I saw Inception or Oppenheimer a bunch within the last year plus because of the Oscars and because of this podcast. I recently rewatched Interstellar in IMAX. They did an IMAX re-release, I think, last winter. I was able to rewatch The Dark Knight in movie theaters, I believe, last summer, and then just did this for Inception. And I gotta say, after we saw Oppenheimer, I was like, Oppenheimer is absolutely my favorite. And then after I saw Interstellar, I was like, Interstellar might be close. It might be close. But after watching this, I'm like, man, Inception might be my favorite. I don't know. Like, it's really, really tough. I think Oppenheimer is probably my number one. But man, this movie really made a case just because of how fun and memorable it is after so long. It is so good, and it is very hard for me to pick. So I know that's a bad answer because I'm not giving you a definitive like number one, but
You're leaving the plot unresolved.
yes, exactly. I'm leaving it up for your interpretation. No, I don't know. I can't pick because I think so many of his movies have traits to them that I'm like, man, this is really, really good and compelling and a convincing case to be my number one. But yeah, this might be, I don't know. It's between this and Oppenheimer, I think. I can't pick. Don't put me on this. I appreciate you putting me on the spot, but I'm gonna bail
That's
on
fair.
you.
That's fair.
Amanda, do you have a would this be your favorite?
Yeah, I guess.
How many have you seen?
Only 3, I think.
This
Yeah.
and Oppenheimer
and
and
Tenet.
okay.
And I compared this one and Tenet because I think I mean, obviously Oppenheimer is like its own thing, like we said earlier, the only biopic that he's done. Tenet is very much like a let's explore time instead of let's explore dreams, let's explore time and have a little movie about that. And man, I just hated it. I hated it so much. And so this one, like, they're very similar in a lot of ways, but this one, I think what sets it apart is like the fact that it is fun and it is enjoyable. Even though there is still that element of like, are you smart enough for this? The fun and the interesting concept like outweighs it. Whereas
Yeah.
Tenet, I feel like I don't even know if Christopher Nolan knew what he was actually talking about in that movie.
Yeah.
Not to mention some of the other issues that movie had, such as the sound mixing, which annoyed me in this movie a little bit too. Not as bad as Tenet, not nearly as bad as Tenet, but that's kind of something that he also doesn't have the best sound mixing sometimes on purpose because he likes it.
I'd say didn't it like win for sound mixing at the Oscars?
This won the sound category, both sound categories.
And I'm just saying, I like literally it was like I had to constantly turn the volume up and down. It was so frustrating. Anyways, also, speaking of, so last week when we teased that we were doing Inception, we were like doing the like, "Bwah," right? And we're like, oh, Ben, you'll get it after you watch the movie. So the movie finished, and I was like, Geoff, I don't feel like I actually heard the score go "bwah" at all. And I was like, did you hear it? Like, are we crazy? Did we make that up? Like, I don't understand. And no, we didn't make it up, but also no, it doesn't really happen in the movie. But it was in the trailer for Inception.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this trailer was so memorable and just ingrained in everyone's brains. Geoff went on a little deep dive, like looking up about the quote unquote Inception horn, which is like an actual thing, an actual sound that people reference.
They infiltrated your mind to make you think it was from the movie.
It's just the greatest marketing campaign ever.
But it's just from the trailer. So, Ben, you'll have to go watch the trailer when we're done, and you will hear the horn of which we were speaking.
I kind of forgot about that discussion. But you're right. Yeah, I did not notice that in the.
No. Great score, though.
Yeah.
Great score. Great Hans Zimmer score. The song playing with Mombasa is incredible. The time theme at the end of the movie is amazing. And if you want to know what the trailer song is, if you go to Spotify or wherever you get your music and you search for the song Mind Heist by Zach Hemsey, that's the song. But yeah, the trailer is one of my favorite movie trailers, and I think one of the best trailers of like the last 20 something years. Like, it's that good of a trailer.
Mind Heist just makes me think of Chris Angel. Mind freak.
Oh my gosh. That's a deep cut.
Very much of the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about getting in your mind, man.
It's all Dom Cabez. He's an illusionist. That's all he is.
Pretty much. It's just like Tom Cruise doing little magic tricks.
Can you imagine how much different this movie would be if Tom Cruise was playing Leonardo DiCaprio part?
It would not be good. Not at all.
Nah.
Oh, no.
I don't think it would work. The scenes in the intro, even the stealth scene, as he's like breaking into the safe at the beginning of Saito's dream, just the little things like that. Yeah, I don't think it would work as well.
So I just have one last little nitpicky thing that I want to say, that I hate that Dom's wife's name is Maul. Maul. What name is that?
That's a weird name.
The first couple times I watched it,
Arch any Maul's listening.
I thought her name was like Ma. Like,
like Ma, like how like an old country dad talks about his wife.
Because I had no frame of context for what that name would be. And I just, every time they said it, I was like, are they saying Ma? Like MAW? I don't understand. And then, finally, when we started watching movies with subtitles, I was like, Ma?
Is it
like a
supposed
mall?
to be, like, short for like Mallory? I don't know.
I don't know, but in French, mal means bad.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm like, maybe they were trying to be cute. I don't know, but like, it's just like, you either think MALL like a mall, or like Ma. I don't know. I hate it every time they say it.
Well, a quick Google search tells me that her name is actually Molly, but they call her Maul.
Well, in the subtitles, it's spelled MAL.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
a shortened version of Molly.
No, I know. I'm just saying what Quora says when I Googled it.
That makes more sense. I've
Does
heard
make more sense.
people named Molly be called, well, usually it's like malls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mall. I hate it.
There's a link to a magazine about the meaning behind the characters' names. It says Moll. Her name is Molly, but she's referred to as Moll. Moll means bad in French. Male means badly in Latin. In English, Moll is a combining form that gives the meaning of a shade of badness when added to another word like malpractice. Please note that her movie poster description is The Shade. So it seems very
Mall.
intentional.
All right.
Mall. They're just like bad. She's
She's
bad.
bad.
Yeah. Shade of bad.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Mall.
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 You want to say that one more time?
Mall.
Oh.
Mall.
Mall. Come here, Ma.
Yikes. Maybe time to wrap it up.
Can I just say one more thing before we sign off here? Sorry, I just have to call this out. I say it every time I see this movie. But Ben, when you started talking about the intro to this movie, the first like 15, 20 minutes when he's in the dream, hijacking Saito's dream, breaking into a safe, Dom Cobb utilizes one of the sickest things I don't know if I've ever seen in a movie, where he's walking through, he's sneaking through, and as he's shooting guys with his silenced pistol, he's catching the shells. And he's reaching over the gun and catching the shells as he shoots them. And the first time I saw it, I was like, what is he doing? And then the more and more I see it, I'm like, man, that's so sick. And nobody utilizes that at all in movies or anything. It's the first time I've ever seen that properly utilized. And I still think it's like the sickest thing. Very little
knows
thing.
how to kill people without it making a sound.
Listen,
You just gotta reach around,
just gotta reach around.
catch the case. Jeff was like, he said that to me last night. He's like, he's catching the bullets. And I was like, what do you mean he's catching the bullets? I was like, that's not possible. He was like, no, the shell. Like, oh, well, that's different than the bullet.
Babe, in dreams, all things are possible. So maybe it was catching the
That's
bullets.
true.
I guess. But at that point,
No, I'm
we
kidding.
didn't know he was in a dream?
That's true.
Question mark?
That's true. We didn't.
Yeah. Unless, I mean, you did because you remember the movie.
True.
I didn't remember that opening sequence at all. I was like, nope, don't remember this. Anyways, Jeff.
The only other thing I was going to say is I feel like every movie like this since 2000 has Michael Caine or Morgan Freeman in that type of role.
Michael Caine.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong at all. Michael Caine is used quite a bit, especially in the Nolan verse.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love listening to him talk?
I'm about to say, Michael Caine was he's in Batman Begins. He was in The Prestige. He was in The Dark Knight. He's in this. He's in Dark Knight Rises. He was in Interstellar. I think he was in Dunkirk. I can't remember if he was in Dunkirk. He was in Tenet. He was not in Oppenheimer. He won't be in The Odyssey. So, but yeah. Michael Caine's got that Nolan partnership.
The Odyssey.
Yeah. That's his next movie. He's doing an adaptation of The Odyssey with a lot of people.
I know. It's probably going to be real long.
Probably. It's going to be real sick.
The book was long.
He's like, I'm over original content. I want to do adaptations of things now.
Well, there was a joke that the reason the Oscars didn't feel star-studded this year is that all the stars were in Europe filming The Odyssey.
I believe it. The cast list is crazy. Let me look up the latest cast list for The Odyssey, but it looks crazy. Let me look this up here. The Odyssey 2026, starring Matt Damon as Odysseus. It will feature Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, Benny Safdie, Charlize Theron, John Bernthal, John Leguizamo, Elliot Page, Himesh Patel, Mia Goth. Yeah, this is crazy. Cosmo Jarvis of Shogun fame.
Maybe give some other people a chance to be in movies. Gosh.
And Michael Caine. Okay.